girl, let's talk crime. Betty Lou Beetz was born in Roxborough, North Carolina on March 12, 1937. She was born to alcoholic parents who were extremely poor. They were tobacco farmers, and her childhood was filled with a lot of trauma. At 3 years old, she lost her hearing after getting the measles. I've read on a few different articles in my research that some people said that she lost her hearing. Some people say she was partial, that she lost part of her hearing. So I'm not 100% clear on that. At 5, she said that she was raped by her father, and then she was sexually abused throughout her early childhood. At the age of 12, Betty actually had to leave school to take care of her younger brother and sister because her mother was institutionalized.
Betty Lou Beetz. Betty Lou Beetz was born in North Carolina, where she suffered a rough upbringing, losing her hearing at 3 as a result of measles, and claimed at the age of 5 she was sexually abused by her father and several other people close to her. She was 12 years old when her mother was institutionalized, leaving her to take care of her younger siblings. At the age of 15, she married Robert Franklin Branson. After the first year of marriage, Betty claimed the relationship was abusive and the couple separated. However, following Betty's attempted suicide, the couple reconnected. Robert left Betty, ending the relationship for good in 1969. In 1970, Betty married Billy York Lane. Again, she found herself in an abusive relationship, and during one argument, Billy broke Betty's nose. She retaliated by shooting him. She was charged with attempted murder. However, these charges were dropped when Billy admitted that he had threatened her life first. The couple divorced in 1972. The following year, Betty began dating Ronnie Threlcold, whom she married in 1978. This marriage ended 1 year later after Betty attempted to run Ronnie over with a car. It wasn't long before Betty married again. In 1979, she married her fourth husband, Doyle Wayne Baker. Her marriage to Baker was again short-lived, and in 1982, she'd moved on to her fifth husband, Jimmy Don Beetz. In August of 1983, Betty told her son from a previous marriage to leave the house because she intended to kill Jimmy. When her son returned home, he found Jimmy shot to death and helped his mum bury the body in the yard of their Texas home. Betty then reported that her husband had gone missing. It wasn't until 1985 that evidence led police back to Betty. During the search of her property, police located the remains of Jimmy Don Beetz and the remains of her fourth husband, Doyle Wayne Barker. Both men had been shot in the head with the same caliber pistol. Two of Betty's children testified against their mother, but also admitted that they had some involvement in concealing the murders. Betty pleaded not guilty and claimed that her children were guilty of the murders. Despite her argument, Betty was found guilty for the murders of Beetz and was sentenced to death. Because she had already received the death penalty, she was never tried for the murder of Barker. In February 2000, at the age of 62, Betty Lou Beetz was put to death by lethal injection in Texas Huntsville unit.
This is the chilling tale of Betty Lou Beetz. Her case shook the Lone Star State to its core. Betty Lou Beetz's life was marked by a series of tragic events and hardships from an early age. Born on March 12, 1937, in Roxborough, North Carolina, she faced numerous challenges that shaped her troubled existence. Beetz grew up in extreme poverty, raised by an alcoholic and violent father. At the tender age of 5, she claimed to have been SA by her father and several people close to her. This traumatic experience set the stage for a life filled with abuse and turmoil. The situation worsened when Beetz turned 12. Her mother suffered a psychotic break and was institutionalized, leaving young Betty to care for her younger siblings. This responsibility forced her to abandon her education, having only completed the 7th grade. At the age of 3, Beetz contracted measles, which resulted in a significant loss of hearing. This disability further complicated her ability to learn and communicate effectively. Her educational journey was cut short, and she struggled with a low IQ, which would impact her decision-making abilities throughout her life. Beetz's adult life was characterized by a series of abusive relationships. She first married at the young age of 15, setting a pattern that would repeat itself multiple times. Each subsequent marriage brought new instances of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. In 1970, Beetz married Billy York Lane, her third husband. During one heated argument, Lane broke her nose, prompting Beetz to retaliate by shooting him. Although she was charged with attempted murder, the charges were dropped when Lane admitted to threatening her life first. On August 6, 1983, Betty Lou Beetz reported her fifth husband, Jimmy Don Beetz, missing from their home near Cedar Creek Lake in Henderson County, Texas. This seemingly routine missing person report marked the beginning of a chilling series of events that would eventually unravel into a shocking murder case. Nearly a week after Jimmy Don's disappearance, on August 12, 1983, his boat was found near Redwood Marina on Cedar Creek Lake. The discovery raised immediate suspicions. Inside the vessel, authorities found Jimmy's fishing license, a life jacket, and his nitroglycerin tablets. This peculiar scene suggested a possible accident, leading investigators to believe Jimmy Don might have fallen overboard and drowned. Lil Smith, the owner of Redwood Beach Marina, recounted that around 10 p.m. on August 6th, several customers noticed an empty boat drifting near the marina. Upon retrieving the boat, they found Jimmy Don's fishing license inside. Smith then contacted Betty Lou Beetz, who came to the marina and identified the boat and license as belonging to her husband. The following day, August 7th, an extensive search operation began. Mike Warren of the Parks and Wildlife Department testified that the search involved members from various fire departments, including the Dallas Fire Department, where Jimmy Don had worked for 26 years. The Henderson County Sheriff's Department, Coast Guard personnel, and numerous volunteers also participated in the search efforts. Despite the massive 3-week-long operation, Jimmy Don's body was never recovered from the lake. The authorities spent weeks dragging the water, believing he had drowned in a tragic accident. Little did they know that the truth was far more sinister, buried in Betty Lou Beetz's own backyard. Nearly 2 years after Jimmy Don Beetz's disappearance, the Henderson County Sheriff's Department received a crucial breakthrough. In the spring of 1985, a credible confidential informant provided information suggesting that Jimmy Don's death might have resulted from foul play. This anonymous tip reignited the investigation, leading authorities to suspect that the presumed drowning was, in fact, a carefully orchestrated murder. Armed with this new information, Rick Rose, an investigator for the Henderson County Sheriff's Department, obtained an arrest warrant for Betty Lou Beetz. On June 8, 1985, Beetz was taken into custody. Following her arrest, Rose secured an evidentiary search warrant for the Beetz residence and its premises. The subsequent excavation of the property revealed a gruesome truth that had been buried for almost 2 years. As investigators combed through the Beetz property, they made a chilling discovery. Jimmy Don's remains were found buried in the front yard, concealed beneath an ornamental wishing well. But the horrors didn't end there. In a macabre twist, the remains of Doyle Wayne Barker, Betty Lou's fourth husband, were unearthed from beneath a storage shed in the backyard. Forensic examination of the remains painted a grim picture. 2 .38 caliber bullets were recovered from Jimmy Don's skeletal remains, one from the skull area and another from the trunk. Similarly, 3 bullets of the same caliber were found in Barker's remains. These findings matched the caliber of a pistol previously seized from the Beetz residence during an unrelated incident, suggesting a sinister pattern in Betty Lou's marital history. On October 11, 1985, Betty Lou Beetz faced trial for the capital murder of her husband, Jimmy Don Beetz. The prosecution alleged that she killed him for remuneration, seeking to benefit from his pension and life insurance policies. Evidence presented included Beetz's forgery of Jimmy Don's signature on a life insurance application 6 months before his death, and her inquiries about his benefits shortly after his disappearance. The jury found Beetz guilty of murder for remuneration, a capital offense under Texas law. Following her conviction, Beetz embarked on a lengthy appeals process. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals initially affirmed her conviction and death sentence. Subsequent appeals to the United States Supreme Court and state habeas corpus proceedings proved unsuccessful. In a federal habeas corpus petition, Beetz raised concerns about her trial counsel's performance, leading to a brief overturning of her conviction by a U.S. District Court in 1991. However, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals reinstated the conviction and death sentence. As Beetz's execution date approached, her case gained significant media attention. Scheduled for February 24, 2000, her impending execution sparked debates about the application of the death penalty to women and the consideration of domestic abuse in capital cases. Beetz's attorneys attempted last-minute appeals, arguing that her history of abuse should have been presented as mitigating evidence during her trial. Despite these efforts, the courts denied stays of execution, citing the lateness of the claims and the state's interest in carrying out its judgment. Beetz's case highlighted ongoing controversies surrounding Texas' use of capital punishment and its clemency review process. The Betty Lou Beetz case serves as a chilling reminder of the dark depths of human nature and the complexities of the criminal justice system. Her troubled past, marked by abuse and hardship, had a profound impact on her life, leading to a series of tragic events that culminated in 2 brutal murders. The case sheds light on the importance of thorough investigations and the crucial role of forensic evidence to uncover the truth. The legal proceedings and their aftermath highlight ongoing debates surrounding capital punishment and the consideration of mitigating factors in such cases. Beetz's execution sparked discussions about the application of the death penalty to women and the need to consider domestic abuse in capital cases. This case continues to be a topic of interest, prompting us to reflect on the nature of justice and the intricate balance between punishment and understanding, the factors that contribute to criminal behavior.
Have you heard the wild story of the Black Widow who married 6 times, and each relationship ended in tragedy? That's the shocking tale of Betty Lou Beetz. Betty Lou Beetz had a tough life, marked by struggles and troubled relationships. By the time she reached her 40s, she had been married multiple times, and her 5th husband, Doyle Barker, had mysteriously disappeared. But it wasn't until her 6th marriage to Jimmy Don Beetz in 1983 that things took an even darker turn. Jimmy Don Beetz was a retired firefighter from Texas. Just like with her previous marriages, the relationship wasn't smooth. In August of that year, Jimmy suddenly vanished. Betty Lou reported him missing, saying he went out on his boat to fish and never came back. At first, authorities thought it might have been an accident, but Betty Lou's actions later raised suspicion. Fast forward to 1985, an anonymous tip led police to search Betty Lou's property. What they found was shocking. Jimmy's remains were buried in a wishing well in her backyard. But that wasn't all. Investigators also found the remains of her 5th husband, Doyle Barker, buried on the same property. Betty Lou was arrested and charged with both deaths. During the trial, it came out that Betty Lou had staged Jimmy's disappearance to make it seem like an accident so she could collect his life insurance. Even more disturbing, she had involved her own children, instructing them to help hide the evidence and keep quiet. Despite Betty Lou's claims that she was a victim of abuse and acted out of desperation, the jury didn't agree with her defense. She was convicted of serious charges and sentenced to the most severe punishment. Over the years, she and her supporters argued that her troubled past and history of hardship should have been considered, but appeals were denied. In 2000, after spending years on death row, Betty Lou Beetz faced the consequences of her actions. Her case remains one of the most infamous, highlighting how greed and troubled relationships can lead to tragic outcomes. Follow for more.
Betty Lou Beetz shot and wounded her 2nd husband, but she didn't kill him. Her 4th husband wasn't so lucky. Neither was her 5th. In August 1983, after Beetz reported her 5th husband, retired Dallas firefighter Jimmy Don Beetz, missing, police found his boat floating in a nearby lake and presumed he drowned. That is until 2 years later, when Betty Lou Beetz's son came forward and admitted he helped his mother bury the body. Investigators searched her property and not only found Beetz's body hidden under the plastic wishing well, but the remains of her 4th husband, Doyle Wayne Barker, buried underneath a storage shed in the yard of her mobile home as well.